Well, Chris Pomper, I'm joined by Earl Brechlin, who is the editor of the MD Islander, and you are leaving after how many years?
I've been in the news business on Mount Pleasant Island for 37 years.
So let me see your fingers. I mean, there's ink in these. What are you going to be doing at the end of August?
I'm going to go to Friends of Acadia and work with the good folks over there as their communications director.
All right. So you and Alan Baker, you built the Islander.
We started 16 years ago, really from nothing.
Yeah.
And I think the community responded to the type of work that we did, and the success of that is obvious.
I mean, it was kind of funny. I mean, you think about it, back when you first started, you had come over from the Bar Harbor Times. I mean, there were 2 weekly newspapers on the island for a short period of time.
Yeah, there were, and actually, you go back in history, there were times there were 3 newspapers
oh, really?
on this island. So 2 isn't all that unusual, but I think as more out-of-state companies were buying up newspapers, and we're certainly taking a financial reward out of the community, but not putting it back in the form of jobs.
Right.
That the idea of getting together with Alan and having a paper that was locally owned by him and responsive to the community was an important thing to do.
You're a guide. You're an author. You give talks. I mean, what are you going to miss most about being the editor of the Islander? I mean, you've had your pulse, you've had your fingertips on the pulse of the community.
Well, I think I'm going to be working in a different capacity in the community, probably not as broad a scope for the people that I'll meet and the things that I'll be interested in and focusing attention on. But I think that it's all the same motivation, that caring about this community. I came here 40 years ago, fell in love with the place, and just never left.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what always has been most important to me. And so I think it may be a little harder to get my phone calls returned. Sure.
It's going to be a lot easier Wednesday morning when you don't have to have the deadline, because I mean, you're so used to working, everything having to be done, what, on Tuesday, or what was the deadline for the Islander?
Well, we did. I mean, every day there's deadlines.
Right.
So different sections go to press every day, and that's the one thing about the newspaper business, and certainly you're in media, you understand too, is there's no pushing back those deadlines. Everything needs to be done,
right.
Has to be done. There's no saying, well, I'm going to get to that Thursday, or I'll get to that Friday. No, you're not. You're going to get it done when it needs to be done, and the public appreciates that. I think they understand the sacrifices reporters make and photographers make and editors make to bring them the news. I think one of the most fun things was when we would come out on Wednesday afternoons and we'd take a picture of something Wednesday morning, and people go, how did you get that in the paper?
Right.
It's like, well,
but I know the tricks.
Yeah,
I know the tricks on that.
Sure.
What are some of the favorite stories that you've covered here on the island?
You know, it's funny. I think it's some of the smaller stories, the differences that the paper's made in people's lives when they've come in and said, I have this problem, or this person needs some help, or things like that. I mean, there's always big stories that people are interested in. There's crime, there's disaster, there's those types of things. But I think it's the small stories where somebody's life was made better, or the community got to see itself maybe with a little more clarity than it had before. I think that's what I always found the most satisfying.
The island community's changed a lot in the 20-some years you've been with the Islander. What are some of the changes that you've seen, besides a lot more tourists coming to the island?
I think there's a lot more tourists coming to the island. I think we've seen that the politics and how decisions are arrived at in the communities, that process has totally changed, and it's never been...
For the better or for the worse?
I think it's changed for the better. I think there's a lot more voices involved in every issue. I'm not saying that's ever been a smooth or a calm, cool, and collected process, and I think small communities often arrive at a decision by consensus long before, say, someone goes to town meeting and does the vote. Now, I think developing that consensus takes more time, and more people are informed, so there's more viewpoints, so it may be a little more difficult to arrive at that consensus.
Is there anything in hindsight you would have done differently, or is there a story that you wish you could have covered? Or
I think one of the luxuries of being the editor is you've got people that can help cover
Yeah.
those stories. So I don't see that. I think one of the things that would be good, although I think people understand it, is just the problem with drug addiction, with heroin and fentanyl. That what could we do as a small publication, other than people to say this person's affected, that person's affected. But I think in a small community, people are already saying that. They already know. What more clarity could you bring to the issue? I think I've been not frustrated, but I just don't see what could be done differently from a publication standpoint to make any difference in that. And that's
It's a major problem.
It's a major problem.
I mean, not only here on the island, but in the state of Maine. And
Yeah.
I think it's just getting worse at this stage of the game.
Sure.
It's the newspaper business has changed dramatically. I mean, with the web, what are been some of the challenges? What have been some of the fun things with the changing technology?
Well, I think now, and it's a blessing and a curse, is when you go to, say, a fire scene or a traffic accident, and in addition to taking pictures and talking to people, there's this expectation to take pictures and post them to Facebook and say things, and we try to be really careful that when it's an upside down green Jeep, everybody's going to know who drives the green Jeep in town, and that we try to be careful not to put something out before police have released a name or family's been notified, or the fact that someone's not seriously hurt. So there's that technology that you can do with a phone now and take incredible videos that before you had to lug a lot of stuff and make a lot of plans and film and get the negatives and then make prints, and it was a lot more complicated process.
You're still going to be a part of the community. What are any plans? I mean, you're going to run for town office now? I mean, where you couldn't before?
Well, that's the nice thing about this island. There's so much opportunity to participate in the community, and so who knows where that may lead. I've got a couple other books coming out next spring.
What are the books?
I've got a book of essays on the Great North Woods of Maine that Down East will be publishing, and I have another postcard history book that I've updated with Island Port Press. That'll be Boston, Cape Cod, Martha's Vineyard, so that'll be coming out. Not as much local interest.
Yeah.
And then I've got a third project which is still in its infancy, so I probably want to chat about that for the following spring. So I've got some projects going.
You're not going to lack for anything to do.
No, I don't think so.
All right. The camera's yours. What do you want to tell the island community?
You know, I want to thank everyone for their support of the Islander over the years. It was just so gratifying as we started out and the circulation was small, and to get people to say, oh, they're from one of the papers, and then to say the paper, and then to become the paper. And I think that even though leadership may change here, and people will be hearing more about that in the next week or two, I think they're going to find that this is still a place for their voice and for their community to help know itself. And I don't see that changing, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be really good long into the future.
One of the things we didn't talk about was all the awards the Islanders won under your leadership.
Well, you know, the staff wins the awards, whether it's a photographer, whether it's a designer, whether it's the writers. And I think that one of the things that's been most gratifying to win those awards is that we've done that covering this island. We didn't sit down and go, well, we need something for this category, or and especially in the New England region where we won a lot of awards, you know, we're up against small weeklies that are doing stories about crack addicted babies and, you know, these kind of things, and so some of the topics may not be as zingy for journalistically as some of the other places, but the judges have always rewarded, you know, do we reflect our community? And so we take great pride in that. And, you know, to me, the best contest is when people pick up that paper every week, and that's a contest we need to win every week, and we're always doing a little better every week, so we're real happy with that.
You've had great staff here.
Yes, we have, and we haven't had a lot of turnover, and all our writers live in the community. I think our staff, and certainly at our sister paper, the Ellsworth American, they live in the communities, they know the people, and that gives us an insight to be able to tell the stories in a way that the community appreciates, I think.
All right, so again, you're going to be going Director of Communications, Friends of Acadia.
Friends of Acadia.
You want to give a little Friends of Acadia plug?
Well, it's a great organization. It would have to be something I'm passionate about to pull me away from this position, which I really loved and loved covering this community. And so I'm excited to be working with the folks there. They're really motivated, they're passionate, and they're doing some good work. So that's only an upside.
And you know how to write a press release.
We're going to find out.
We'll see if they get
We'll
covered.
see. Yeah.
All right. Best of luck.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for watching this video. Check out all the other videos we have on the WDEA YouTube channel.